When I arrived in the United States, my thinking as a writer really began from that first essay. And then later on, when I was in university, there was an opportunity to write a short story, a fictional piece about anything that you wanted. It was school-wide competition at Oberlin College, where I went for my undergraduate studies. And I was a political science student. And I thought to myself, you know, it was $2,000, $3,000 that you could win for this prize. I had no money as a student, so I thought, all right, you know, I would like that money, so I'm going to write a short story. So I sat down for a few hours and wrote something called At Noon, which was my first story, actually, that was published. And this story was based on a simple truth that then I expanded on. And the truth was this, that during the war in Sierra Leone, after I had come out of the war, I had gone through rehabilitation. I was living in the capital city with my uncle. Every day, at noon exactly, there will be this fighter jet that will fly over the city, the capital city, and it will bombard the strongholds of the rebel group that was in the capital city. And because of this, this became the time, if you had food, that you went out to actually cook that food and eat it in peace. If you cooked that food at any other time of the day, horde of boys with weapons or even adults will come and they'll put you under gunpoint and they'll eat your food. So when they were running for their lives because of this fighter jet hiding in gutters, is when you came out to cook whatever you had very quickly so you could actually eat it in peace, if you can imagine, with all the gunshots and everything. I wanted to explain to people what violence is so that they can understand why it is important to resist it. Because when you've been deeply touched by violence, you don't glorify it at all. You're not fascinated by it in any way. I began to observe that people were interested a lot in what happens during war. Particularly the media was interested in a place that had bloodshed. When the bloodshed was occurring, the guns were sounding, the media was paying attention, but as soon as the guns and the bloodshed ended, their attention turned to another place that was equally, if not more, was showing the sort of degradation of humanity. Everybody went there. Nobody followed up anymore what happened in that country that had just stopped the violence. How do people return home? Is it even possible to do that? If they return home, how do they begin to repair their traditions? How do they begin to learn to live together again as a community? Can they go back to the way their lives had been? If it's not possible, what do they prescribe for themselves to become their new ways of living? And I began to ask this question. I also went home a lot to Sierra Leone, so I began to observe that difficulty of going back in the wake of the war. Regardless of what happened there, it is my home. It is where actually my spirit rests more than any other place. So I had to find a way to reconnect again. I go quite often. It's a very, very peaceful country now. It is more peaceful than New York, actually, where I live, in my opinion. And I'll explain why. It is safer than New York because in Sierra Leone, everybody knows what violence is because one way or another they were touched by it. So people don't have any fascination with it and they resist it at all costs. Whereas in New York, you find one or two people who may still be fascinated with this idea of violence and therefore they have that bravado about it. So actually when I'm in New York, my awareness is more heightened to avoid such circumstances than when I'm in my own country.